Hello my dears, and welcome back to my corner of the internet. I'm Shannon, and today I have a review video to share with you guys. I recently finished watching the Netflix series Unbelievable, and it was so good and so powerful and so important that I had to jump on here and talk to you guys about it. The basic premise of the show, the first episode starts off and we meet a young girl named Marie, and she has been attacked in her own home. She has been assaulted in her own bed by somebody who broke in. The year is 2008, so he broke in, assaulted her, and then left. The thing was, though, when he left, he did a really good job of cleaning up the scene. In fact, there's not really any evidence left behind. And a lot of the things that he used were things that belonged to her. Like to tie her up, he used one of her own shoelaces. She reports immediately this crime to the police. And the first episode is so upsetting and it's so emotional. And I do want to warn you guys that if you've been through something similar, you might find this series in general triggering. And I know that word has kind of become memed on the internet, but I mean it in the genuine sense of that word. It's difficult to watch. And the whole series is, but for me, I found especially this first episode was very difficult. So after she reports, there's a lot of scenes that include her being asked again and again what happened. There's a scene at the hospital where they're examining her, and it's just so invasive, which, I mean, of course, in order to have the most or the best chance at finding a perpetrator like that, you need to report right away. But watching it play out like that, it's like she was violated at home and then she went to the hospital and was violated again, even though it's different, of course. But it's just so invasive and so much, and it broke my heart watching her go through this because she's a young girl. We learn about her that she's been in and out of foster homes her whole life, and she has a bit of a reputation for being a bit of a hard case, you know, a little promiscuous, a little provocative, things like that. And as the police try to put together this case, not a lot of it makes sense to them. And they keep questioning her and they keep questioning her and they want her to write it down. And you can see on this girl's face the toll that it is taking on her. So at this point, you know, when this happens, because I know I just said she's been in foster care her whole life. At this point, you know, she's not in foster care anymore. I'm pegging her age at like 18 or 19 probably. And she lives in like an apartment complex that the purpose of this complex is to help transition young people from foster care into like their own lives, basically. So the police can't put it together. Then after so much time of just being questioned and questioned, she eventually just wants it to be over, so she tells the police that she lied. But of course, we as the viewers know that she didn't. But she tells them that she lied because she's done. She wants to go home. She wants this over with. She doesn't want it to drag on any longer. And that, of course, is a big deal and a big situation, and eventually she gets charged with false reporting of a crime. Now, fast forward to, I think it's 2011, and we meet, at this point the show kind of goes off in two separate directions. So we have Marie back in 2008, which we get flashbacks to throughout the series. And then we have 2011, where two police officers are working on a case, or they will be. One is Toni Collette, who I love so much. Toni Collette is an absolute treasure, and she's amazing in this. The other actress as well, I can't remember her name, but I've seen her in so many things. Nurse Jackie, The New Girl, something else that I loved her in, I can't remember, but they're both just such amazing actresses. And so they end up coming together. The other actress that's not Toni Collette, Agent Duval or Detective Duval, she gets an assault case and of a young girl named Amber, and as she is helping Amber and working with Amber and even speaking to Amber, we learn that the case, what Amber is reporting, is nearly identical to what Marie had reported back in 2008. But the differences in the way these two girls are treated is night and day. Detective Duval is so compassionate and so caring and so gentle and so soft with the woman that she's working with, that it's just the anxiety as a viewer that you feel from watching Marie's situation and then watching Amber's situation is lessened because it's being dealt with properly. And then Detective Duval makes it her mission to work and find this perpetrator. And eventually it ends up with her teaming up with Toni Collette, whose detective name I can't remember. I'm bad with names, you guys. And because they both have very similar cases. And they work and they work and they work and they dig and they find the man who is responsible. So I'm not going to get into too much of the details of the show because I just want this to be a review, not a sort of play-by-play of it the way I do my book talks. But it's just such an important show. While there's so much going on, as you can tell from just what I've told you there's so much going on, but there's a quietness to this show. There's I don't even know how to word it. That's the best way I can say. There's a quietness to it that is just beautiful to watch. The cast, every single member of the cast is so fantastic. And they're not... The way they play the characters is so human and so real that these characters in the hands of less outstanding actors would be played completely differently. There's magic in the way that they play these characters and the way they bring them to earth. Like, it's hard to explain, but they make them real. It's not just, a buddy cop thing going on. They're real women, and it's just beautifully done. The showrunner is also a woman, which I love. I love that this topic was tackled by a woman because I think it would be an entirely different show if it was tackled by a man. Not that it would have been a bad show, but I feel like this particular story needed to be told by a woman. And it's just so good. It's one of the best shows, I would think, of 2019. I'm sure come award season, when it's primetime award season, I have no doubt that there will be nominations abound for this cast and the showrunners. Can you hear that? Just hang on. I don't know if you can hear that, but it's my dog. She's laying beside me just snoring. Anyway, it's on Netflix, you guys. It was put up, I think, last week. I would 100% recommend it. But again, know that it's going to be difficult to watch, especially if you've experienced something similar. It's going to be difficult to watch. What I love too is that throughout, as it all unfolds and towards the end, because of course, as I'm sure you can imagine, it's all going to come together and somebody is going to realize that these 2011 cases, because eventually they find like 3 or 4 women, they do eventually tie it back to Marie and her situations. And when the original police officer finds out that she had not been lying, I guess this is maybe a bit of a spoiler, but when he finds it out, the reaction that he has you feel for him a little bit as well. At least I did. I mean, clearly bad at his job, which he even acknowledges, but you can see it on his face. He's not some guy who's just out here, you know, some shady cop who's trying to hurt people. You can see on his face that he's horrified that he got it wrong. And there's a point when Marie just tells him to do better, and it got me right in the right in the feelings. Anyway, you guys, I'm not gonna ramble on too much because I don't want to give it all away. I just really want to encourage you all, if you have Netflix, to watch it. It's so good, and it's so, I saw one reviewer call it radical, and I think that's an accurate word to describe it because it's such a intense story told in such an honest, emotional, beautiful way. So there you go. Also, if you're like me and you've watched and loved Mad Men, if you remember Mad Men, if you remember Ken, who was one of my favorite kind of secondary characters, he's in it very briefly for 2 episodes. He only has like a handful of lines, but it was cool seeing him. Anyway, you guys, thanks so much for watching, and I will see you on Monday. Bye, guys.